Okay, I don't know if we're live yet. It says that it's setting up the meeting, but just in case we're already live, hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here with everyone. Hello. So, so today's conversation is going to be amazing. I received so many downloads this morning, so I'm super excited. I just would like you guys to bear with me while I just share this live to my timeline. And if you would like your friends and family to join the conversation as well, go ahead and share it to your page. The more the merrier, right? Because we're having important conversations. So I'm so excited to welcome my guests today. And you probably already know my other half, Sue Lee Yates. She is the bright light in my life. She's a good friend across the way in the UK. Hi, Suli.
Hi.
So thank you for being here. And I want to also welcome Melody Chidamoro. Did I get that right? I told her I might butcher her name. I'm really bad with pronouncing names. Hi, Melody.
Hi.
And last but not least, the amazing France Moulton Hetty. And hello, France. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
So if you're watching this video from another page, if you can go to the Awakening to a New World Facebook group, that way it's definite I will see any of your comments. And the whole point of doing these conversations every week is that so everyone can be a part of the conversation, right? And so before I get in a little deeper with who my amazing, fabulous, wonderful guests are, I just want to first say that these conversations are to look beyond the pandemic, right? And to a world that we're wanting to create. And so with that being said, I just want you to know that we are not downplaying the suffering, the true suffering that is happening in the world right now, right? There are so many people out of work, and there's people dying, and there's loved ones in the hospital or in nursing homes, and we can't see them. We're all cooped up in our home. So many people out of work. So we are not making light of what is happening, right? But we want to, in these conversations, look beyond what we can see, like what's out there, what we can see, and really tune in and tap in to really dig deep and see the blessings of what is happening and how that could affect the new reality, the new world, right? So once we make it to the other side of this, what does that look like? So I would love for my guests to introduce themselves and just give a little something on what we're talking about today. So Suli Yates, you are up, my darling.
Hi, I'm an advanced channel and a Reiki master teacher, and in fact I've done many modules over the years in a journey of self-healing, and I think that's probably the same way for all of us light workers, I like to call us. And I believe that there is immense potential in this time, phenomenal potential. There's nowhere else to go, and many people are saying this, there's nowhere else to go but within. And I think that in that journey within, we have the potential to open a portal and a doorway to a better way of being. And I think that we owe it to ourselves to take this time to nurture our inner world, basically, and go from start to sort of be from the heart rather than all in the head, if that makes sense.
Oh, it so makes sense. It so makes sense. Yes, there is such I feel like it's this reawakening, right? This reawakening. And so I'm so excited that you're here. And I know you have so much to share, so much wisdom and knowledge and love to share with our audience. So thank you, thank you. So I want to just say hello to Kara and hello to Tina. Good morning, good morning. So excited that you're here. So the next guest I want to welcome is Melody, and Melody is a bright star. I've just recently connected with Melody, but as soon as I saw her, I just could feel the warmth radiating from her. So welcome, welcome. I'm honored to have you on today's panel, Melody.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm so happy to be here as well.
So do you want to just tell everybody, on the speaker sheet, I called you the love coach. Right? The love coach, because that's what I felt when we connected. It's just this love. It's awesome. So do you want to just share a little bit about what you do? What's your magic?
So my magic is I help people connect to the love that is inside them, and so that they can grow it enough that it's enough to share with someone else, be it their spouse, their children, everybody around them. Because everything, I believe, starts inside. And as what Suli was saying, this is an opportunity, a time when you're not rushing off to do stuff, that you should just dedicate half an hour to go within. If you know, you can get away from all the other distractions that we have in our homes at the moment, you know, take more time than half an hour. I'm just saying half an hour because, you know, people feel pressured when you say take half a day to think about what's happening.
Take half a day. Take a whole day, right? Take a whole
day.
Oh
my goodness. Yeah. So take half an hour to go inside and feel you.
Yeah.
Like be with yourself. I used to be afraid of being by myself. And I used to say, don't leave me in a room by myself. But now I love it because that's when I really connect and I know how I'm feeling, good or bad. If I'm not feeling good, I will say, okay, acknowledge it. So what do I do about it? If I'm feeling good, then I say, how can I up this? Because you can always have more joy. You can always enjoy your life more than you're doing right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited that you are here. And I also want to introduce Fran. I'm sorry, I always call her Fran, but it's France. I apologize. France and I have played together in the past and we have a lot of fun. She's amazing. She's a numerologist, an astrologist, and a minister of all things. So I'm so blessed that you are here playing with us today.
Thank you. And I'm happy to be here. Today is the Scorpio full moon. It was this morning. And that's Scorpio is all about rebirthing, which is the great message of what 2020 pivotal year in this whole rebirthing process that we're undergoing. And I'm happy to be able to be here to share what I like to point out, remind people that the birthing process is not an easy one. Anybody who's had a child knows that.
Yeah.
And we prepare ourselves for 9 months, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's going to happen. And so that last stage where it gets very challenging is most challenging is kind of, we can say that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
That's called transition, I believe, if I remember right, from the days when I was pregnant. Just before you're pregnant, when it's like, okay, you're in hard labor transition time. And that's what we're doing. We're transitioning into this new world that we're birthing all together. It doesn't happen very quickly, but you know, all along the way, that's what we're doing. So to remember what the ultimate result will be, just like when you're pregnant and you're going through all these things, whether you have morning sickness when you're starting or whatever, remembering in the end that that child is going to be just so lovely to have. That's what we're doing. We're birthing the new world where there's going to be so much more harmony and peace and, you know, no wars and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? But I don't know about you, but especially recently, I have felt like I am in the birth canal, right? I'm like in that tiny little birth canal, and I'm just trying to make my way to the other side. Right? Yeah. And that's what awakening is all about. You know, all of, you know, if anyone watching has gone through their awakening, they know it's messy, they know it's confusing, they know that it can be very painful, right? The universe knocked me flat on my back for a year so that I could have the experience of recognizing my own truth. And so, you know, wherever you are right in this moment, it's going to be okay, right? Even though our human selves are experiencing all this struggle, right? It's just, I ask you during this conversation to release what you are seeing, right? Release what you are seeing with your eyes. And I invite you to really listen with your heart, right? Listen with your heart, because there is a reason that the universe, God, source, Buddha, whoever you know, whatever you call the ultimate one, right? They know what they're doing, and it's no accident that we're all put on pause. There is not one person on this earth that is not affected by what is happening now, right? But why did this have to happen? Like, I really believe that this is such a blessing, and I believe that this had to happen. Otherwise, it would have taken us 1,000 years to get to where we need to go. Thoughts? I would love to hear from my panel members, and I would love to hear from you if you're watching us live or on the recording. Please share, why do you think, or why do you not think that this didn't have to happen, right? So I want to start there. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
Oh, did somebody else?
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, from my perspective of being very connected with nature, especially recently, I'm coming from the perspective of what I kind of sense and feel from Mother Nature, who is celebrating at the moment, and those who are sensitive will feel it and will sense it and will see it. There is a phenomenal amplifying, if you will, of the energy of nature. And I think, and what I sense is, if something hadn't happened, we would have self-destructed in some way. And I think that the earth would be all right. That's what I get a sense. The earth would retreat for a while, but she would recover. She's okay, but she is desiring us to wake up and to smell the coffee. Literally,
or the roses,
to wake up to the ability to work with nature, to connect with nature, and to learn from nature, rather than feel that you're the controlling, you know, you're controlling nature, and nature is your servant almost. It's almost like I think there's a potential to become a partner with nature, and I think that if this hadn't happened, we wouldn't have been here to even have a potential to become a partner of nature.
So do you think that, like, to put it in a different way, it's like the earth was dying, and it was not that Mother Nature wouldn't recover if we became extinct, right? But that's where we were heading, right? Our waters are poisoned, our food is poisoned, our, you know, I really feel like it's like we know we shouldn't eat that cupcake, right? We know we shouldn't litter, we shouldn't pollute the air or do whatever we are doing in the earth, right? But we just continue on the road, and that self-destructive road. And I totally agree with that. So do you think this is going to be a long time? This
I
pause?
think,
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go
sorry,
ahead.
Suli,
No,
I
no,
think
no.
I don't know about this time, and I don't think it's about how long it's going to take. I think it's more about what's necessary. I think when we, as we were going crazy and more crazy, and we were nonstop and nobody was stopping, and we have convinced ourselves that we are the dominioners of the world. We rule over everything. And I think it was about time nature said, hang on a minute, you don't. Because how many times have we had tsunamis or earthquakes or whatever that have stopped us in our tracks and said, you are not the powerful people here. In fact, you are the most vulnerable because animals are thriving. If you go outside right now, we've seen so many animals. Like every time I go for a walk, I see something strange I'd never seen before because they have the space and the time and the opportunity because we are not there to interfere. We are not there to cause any harm. And we also need to recognize that just because we seem like we have more power and more control doesn't mean we actually do have more power and more control. We have just convinced ourselves that. And we need to take a stock of what we've been doing, the actions we've been taking individually and as a collective, and challenge ourselves and say, is this the way we want to go? Is this the world we want to live in? Where you, in some cases, you can't even see the sky because you've never seen a blue sky in your entire life because we are polluting it so much.
That's so true. And here we don't get to see the stars as much, right? But so I noticed like several years ago, I really felt like Mother Nature was really angry with us, right? I think that we're the children of Mother Nature, right? And so I really felt her wrath. I felt that she was really upset with us for the way that we were treating her. And so now we have this opportunity to recognize ourselves. And what came through right now is, this is a time to ask yourself new questions. If we continue to ask ourselves the same questions, we're going to get the same answers. And that's not going to help us move forward into the world, right? So I want to just read Nelta, is that, I think she's related to you. She wrote, it had to happen because we are getting more put of sync with ourselves and hence out of sync with all that's around us. We even need to be aware now of the environment, not to be further sucked into gadgets, which was also taking over our consciousness. Can you be a little more specific of what kind of gadgets do you think is putting us down the wrong road, so to speak? I love that answer. Thank you. So it is a time for us to go within, right? This is a time, I really believe that this is the time for all of us to recognize that regardless of what you see happening out there, the only way to change it is to go within, right? The only way to have a better life, to have a better society, to have a better world really starts within, right? And so we're going to go deeper into that. And I just want to just look at some more of the comments. So Kara is saying, and we're celebrating with Mother Earth. And Kara, because Kara went through a very painful awakening as well. She says, yes, messy, painful, and beautiful. Yes, right? It's like sometimes many of us think that this is happening to us, right? Many of us think this pandemic and the job loss and the death and this and that and all of it, right? And please, I'm just not diminishing it, right? But it feels like life is happening to us. Just like in an awakening where I was knocked on my butt and, you know, I was bedridden for a year in extreme pain. The truth was it was all happening for me, right? So everything that seems to be happening to us, can you see that it's really happening for us? Fran, do you want to take that question?
I agree. And speaking, my view often is through astrology. So what happens is we're born with free reign, or free will, okay? And we can do as we choose to. The master teacher is the planet Saturn, and it takes like 29 years about for a cycle of Saturn. And so somewhere around the 29th year of life, people seem to have a big challenge. And that's what's called your Saturn return. Do you learn something through it? After it's passed, if you go back to your old ways, you're kind of thinking that you're okay to keep going. And Saturn will come and nudge you and say, you're supposed to do things differently now. And you just ignore it, okay? He puts you on your knees, but you decide to just keep on going. Well, the planet Uranus, the planet of awareness, which is the planet that rules the sign Aquarius, and we're just at the entrance of the age of Aquarius right now. Aquarius is all about an awareness for the masses, for everybody, okay? So now Uranus eventually gets tired. It says, okay, well, you've had your opportunity, so now boom. It rules lightning, so you know how quickly lightning strikes, and you never can tell where or when lightning will strike. That's the way Uranus operates. I feel this pandemic is a Uranus intervention because we weren't doing what we were supposed to do as a global. So now we're all, things are stopped for us for a while, and for us to, you know, the way to get there is to go within. And so Uranus came in and put this in effect. And I just love to see everything that's happening, because like I said, today is the Scorpio full moon. The planet Pluto rules Scorpio. It went retrograde like a week ago. When planets go retrograde, their energy is turned inward. Everything's internalized. So we can revisit, whatever, all the words, right? Well, on the 11th, Saturn will go retrograde. On the 13th, Venus will go retrograde. On the 14th, Jupiter will go retrograde. And in the month of June, Neptune will go retrograde, and Mercury does it 3 times a year for like 6 weeks at a time. We've probably all dealt with Mercury retrograde, but the other planets don't do it quite so frequently. We're entering a period, a season of retrogrades. And so the effect is for us all to continue to turn inward. We haven't finished. We need to continue this process. Pluto being the big kahuna right now, Pluto is wanting us to transform, because Pluto is all about transformation and empowerment. So we need to empower ourselves. And how do we do that? We first go in, dig everything that's been buried, has to be brought up to the surface so that it can see the light of day and be transformed. And we're in that process, and it's not exactly pretty to go through that, but it's necessary. And that's where we are.
So,
And so,
so
yeah.
now that we know where we are, right? Now that we're in it, right? We are deep within it. And so now it's time to focus on where we want to go, right? Where do we want to go? And so, so I used the analogy last week, and I'm going to do it again because it kind of gives you the sense, right? So if you're walking in the woods and all of a sudden you fall into a mud pit, like quicksand, right? And you're waist high in the mud pit and you're trying to move, but you can't because you're stuck in that mud pit, okay? It's not going to serve you by focusing on the fact that you're in the mud pit. By focusing on the fact that you're in the mud pit, you're not going to be able to get out, right? So it's accepting, yes, hey, I'm in the mud pit, right? And then saying, okay, but I want to be over there. And by focusing over there, that those opportunities to get out of the mud pit are there. But it's really bringing your awareness from where you are to where you want to go. Thoughts? Huh?
It is, but the way out is in. So everybody needs to stay centered, connect more and more. We need to be connected. This is the time where we need to take the focus away from what's out there and come on in and receive our guidance. And then maybe when it's time to act, we act according to the guidance. But right now, it's not really time for us to be creating, initiating the great. It's time to contemplate them, and we're in the planning stage right now for what we'll be doing in the future, really. But we're in that time where God would say, just be still, just be. We need to be, first of all, because we have been doing so much, and we've made such a mess of a lot of things. And so I believe that we do need to look to the future, but the way to look at it is through going in.
So, okay, so I hear that, and that's a good point, but it's not going to serve anybody to say, hey, just to focus on the negative of what is happening, right? So Kara is saying we need a rebirth of ourselves and a rebirth of our connections and a rebirth of our connection to nature. Yes, 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 Kara.
Yep.
Exactly. So this is so awesome. We are in such an amazing place, even though, whether you might be unemployed, maybe you're homeschooling your children and trying to work at the same time, right? Times are, tough, but also a lot of deeper things are happening, right? All the rules of society have been thrown out the window. The government is not the same, right? The government does not have the ability to do the same old, right? The school systems, children around the world are now being remote learning or homeschooled. So many things, like we have been stripped naked, all of our extra services, like our hairdressers. I don't know about you, but
Overgrown.
as a woman, we miss our hairdressers. So sending lots of love to the hairdressers of the world. You're going to have more work than you can imagine when we get to and you probably get a lot bigger tips as well. But so I believe, right, that this is a time of dismantling the way things were so that we have the opportunity to create something better. Melody, how you feeling about that? And I would love for our audience members to pipe in on that. But before we do, I just noticed a comment from Tina. Tina says, I agree, France. We're still in rebirth and not quite time to move forward. When we rush things, we're distracted from what we are learning within. Yes, yes, yes. But if we don't focus, right? If we don't start thinking about what we want instead, we're not going to come out. Like this is my belief, and I might get some pushback on this, but I believe it's still important to really think about, now's an opportunity to make huge changes in the government and structures, the school structures, all those kind of, institutions that we as a society have been evolving and growing and evolving and growing, and those institutions have remained the same, right?
Absolutely. Pluto,
So,
planet that's rebirthing, is in the sign Capricorn. That's all the institutions, governments, education, banking, insurance, all of them are in need of being totally rebirthed. And that's the process, but it happens slowly. So
Melody, I'm sorry, Melody, I would love to hear your take on what I just said. What do you think?
Yeah, so I've been through this already. In that, in 2008, my dear, beautiful, amazing husband passed away. And so my life as I knew it, which really I could never have imagined. I really, really loved this man. More than probably I even considered loving myself, which is crazy because that, I love myself a lot. But he was very important to me. I'm saying this because I just need people to understand how I felt. I felt lost. I felt like thrown out into, I felt undefended, like I felt exposed actually. And that was tough, really tough. And then I had two girls in the house. I had an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I really couldn't cope with being a mother that I needed to be at the time. So, and I also knew I wanted joy at the end of this. I understood I had to grieve for him because of his importance and everything I was going through. But I also had this need to get my joy back because I felt like I was enclosed in some dark place and I really needed to get out. So I looked for help. I went to therapy. I had 2 therapists. I was reading books like crazy. I discovered all this spiritual work, law of attraction, whatever, during this time. And so when this whatever is happening now happened, it was like, okay, it's bad, but it's never going to be as bad as that for me, because I've already gone through the wars. And anyone who looks at me now says, people who saw me going through it, especially, say, we really were concerned. We didn't think you were ever going to get to this stage. But I got to that stage because I worked on me. I worked on just holding on to that little joy and got bigger and bigger and bigger. But I'm a Scorpio, so apparently I like to rebirth myself.
So are you saying that your situation you can relate to your situation as to what's happening now for everybody else?
I can, yeah. I think because a lot of people feel really lost and afraid and exposed and powerless. That's exactly how I felt. And I'd never in my entire life ever felt like that before. And I didn't know what to do. And there was nobody who understood. That was the other problem. When I tried to talk to people about how I was feeling, people looked at me with like, he was just a husband. He died. So what? And I'm like, how do you not understand this was a part of me? And people didn't get that. But then I got to learn that our attachments to each other depend on a lot of things. And my attachment to my husband was dependent on my soul being attached to him. So, you know, him leaving was like, I needed to get back my soul. And that's another conversation altogether. But it was a tough time for me. And I just want people to understand that if you start taking just one step of looking for, admire flowers, if you can't find joy in your life, it's always good. Like, look at nature. Nature is always beautiful, no matter what time of year it is. Even in winter, when all the trees don't have leaves, there's still something that you can see and admire and say, oh my God, it's thriving even in this, you know, hardship. So, and now if you look outside, everything is looking amazingly good. From trees to flowers to animals, to everything is doing really well. Start admiring that and be grateful. Gratitude, we underestimate it sometimes, but gratitude is something that helps us to see better. Just to say, I'm happy that I am alive. I'm still alive. I'm breathing. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but today I'm great.
So it's really important, right, that we do go within and we do look for, because when something like that happens, right, when you lose your husband, you lose your loved one, you lose your job, you lose your parent because of the pandemic, right? I'm kind of tying it into what's happening now. It's still important, and this goes with the mud, right? It's like, it's so important to see the beauty, right? To see the beauty even in the darkness. In every challenge, there's gifts. In every challenge, there's blessings, right? And if you choose or intend to see all you have to do is go within and be like, I want to see the beauty, right? And just with intention, you will notice it. You will notice it. So I want to talk about the other side of it, right? Because there is a lining, right? It is. So this is a huge opportunity to go within, right? All your distractions have been taken away, and you have this opportunity to breathe, connect, go within, okay? But how are we going to recreate in a new way if we don't also take action, right? So Suli, what are some things do you think that people can do right now that will bring them to a brighter world when we do get through this?
Well, actually, I want to go back to the analogy of the mud, being stuck in the mud, because when you were talking about that, there was so much involved in that was really clear to me. It's almost like it jumped out at me, because okay, I've never been in that situation, but I can imagine it, and it is very much like this situation. So for instance, you get in the mud, you panic, and therefore you're going deeper and deeper and deeper. So what do you have to do? Obviously you want to be out there, you want to be free from it. So the only thing you can do, as far as I can understand, is be still and don't move and completely go within. And you can go, using the analogy, you're going into your heart, you're going way into your heart, dropping from your head, from all that mind chatter. It's okay, that's fine. What would we do without our brain? But it can tend to distract us and think, oh my gosh, I'm sinking. What am I going to do? You're dying, I'm dying, all of that sort of mind chatter. But if you drop from that into your heart, still yourself, and then from that place, you have the potential to have solutions arise. You have the potential to realize that actually, as you become still, as you get quieter, as you're more within your heart center, the movement stops to a certain degree, and you can actually see the wood for the trees. And then you can start to think, now I'm sure I remember somewhere that if I did this, that I can actually try and lie flat and take myself out. And bit by bit, you find solutions to the situation. And before you know where you are, your vision of being out there in freedom is realized, because you've gone within and because you've settled yourself and because you've gone to the stillness and to the heart. And
where all answers lie.
absolutely.
Right?
And you haven't denied the way that you feel. You haven't denied. In fact, you are more alive than ever. And I think that's one thing that's important at the moment, is to grab life with both horns, with both horns, like grabbing the bull with both horns, because we can have a tendency to go out of body in these situations. And I know I spent a lot of my childhood out of body, so I know what it's like. But the more that you can realize that where you are is such a phenomenally rich place, you know, with all the emotions and the mental, and every part of what we are and every part of this life is amazing. Even in the darkest moments, there's just beauty and sacredness there. So I'm gonna
So I want to talk about that even more. Thank you for the way that you explained it, because yes, right, at first you panicked that you fell in the mud pit, right? And then you just get calm and still so you don't sink further. And then by connecting within, that's where all the answers are, right? That's where all the answers are. So I love that analogy. And Betty is saying people were extremely busy before COVID-19. Now people are slowing down and discovering the stillness, voice transform, the new world movement of togetherness, of new changes, and it's all good. And Tina is saying the changes will come in the institution as we change within. Yes, yes, yes. It's so true, right? So when I don't mean to bring up all the time that I was bedridden, but it is my point of reference, right? Because that's where I had my true awakening. So as the electrical currents were going through my fingers and my toes, and you know, and I couldn't do anything. It was going within into the silence where I connected to the wisdom and the knowledge that we all have access to. We're just so busy, right? We've just been so busy as a society to really, Susie knows, I always say this. It's like when I had my awakening, it was like I went to sleep and then I woke up smarter, right? Because all of a sudden I connected to that portal of truth, of knowledge, of wisdom. Because I'm so connected, it just flows through me much easier, right? So I love Tina, that Tina said, you know, by going within, that's how those institutions are going to change. And yes, because when you're silent, when you're quiet, when you connect, that's where the inspiration and the innovation and all of the answers will come through. So
Susan, can I
yes.
ask you a question? So how long did it take you before you, from the time that you were stopped when you woke up and you had this problem, to the time that you figured out what you were going to do?
I didn't figure out what I was going to do. I had to leave my career in January. So by the time October was, I was on 22 pills and a pain patch, shopping for wheelchairs. So, and the doctors wanted me to have a pain pump inserted in my body. And it was at that time of surrendering, right? And I love that Suli used that. It's like at that time of accepting that I was waist high in the mud, right? Then when I surrendered, it was like all of a sudden, and it was like an instantaneous thing. It was like all of a sudden, the veil was lifted and I could see the truth of everything, of how I wasn't honoring myself, how I was showing up in my relationships, how I was, I could just see for the first time, not with judgment, but with compassion, everywhere that I wasn't living my truth. And so it was a painful process, right? So all I did to prepare to receive the truth was I just started listening to guided meditations. I started going within. I started asking myself better questions, right? If you ask yourself, why is this happening to me? The universe is going to tell you why, right? But if you ask, how can I move beyond this? You're going to receive those answers as well. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, it's, like on the scheme of things, it's instantaneous, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Because here we've been stopped since, say, March, and it's June, May. I'm moving ahead here. So that's a short time. And so what I want to make sure that our people who are listening realize is that not to worry if things haven't come clear yet. It's not a problem. You need to continue to just be still, center yourself, because we're still in the storm until the storm is over. I always like to use the analogy when people look at weather pictures of hurricanes. You see this huge storm and there's a little circle, the eye of the storm, where there's calmness. That's where we want to reside. When we center ourselves, we're in that calm connection, realizing who we are, that we're a part of God, a divine reflection, and we're safe. There is no problem when we're centered. It's all around us that there's problems. And so that's why it's so important to continually center ourselves to get through this period of time, because this storm is ongoing right now. It's not over, and it will be a while in physical time, before all the things fall into place. But it's happening step by step by going within for every single person.
Yeah. So once you practice going within, like if you've never meditated before, if you've never given yourself the time to be in stillness or quiet, it's really important at this time that you do. And the more you practice going into the stillness, it's in that moment that I truly connected. That's when the full understanding came. But it was where, right away I started studying the brain, and I started guided meditations, and I started, researching holistic healing, and I started looking for other things. But it's in the continual practice of being in the silence. And then once I connected to that truth, like once I was truly connected, I was never again disconnected. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then I knew what to do. And from that point, it was only, I took myself off all the pills. I chose that this wasn't going to be my story. And within 4 months, I was outside walking in the park, right? But it was really, don't trust me. Don't trust France. Don't trust Melody. Don't trust Suli. Trust yourself, right? You know your own truth, and to go in the silence, like people say, I don't have time to meditate. You can meditate while you're doing the dishes. Yeah. You can meditate while you're walking, right? You can meditate. It's just allowing your mind to quiet so that you can hear those whispers of inspiration saying, oh, buy that book. It might just be something as simple as that, right? buy Melody's book, right? A little
Yes, buy Melody's book.
right, buy Melody's book. And so, but it, you know, it's here, like we don't give ourselves enough opportunity to hear those whispers. I teach in my mastery course because I have this unique understanding of the ego and how it works and why we have it. But it's really like the ego, that mind chatter and all that noise that's coming at us from all around, right? It's like really, when you go to silence, then you can't, when you're listening to all that noise and you're being so busy, you're not able to hear those whispers within. And all it takes to really connect to your own truth, because in truth, we're whole, perfect, and complete. We are of source. We are of God, right? So all is well, regardless of what is happening out there, right? So, but the ego's louder than that voice of wisdom, right? Your higher self. So just quiet, and you can do it so easily by putting your hand on your heart and just closing your eyes and taking a couple of deep breaths, right? And if you only start there, right away, you'll be able to feel an inner peace, right? No matter what's going on, if you just close your eyes, put your hand on your heart and take a few deep breaths, it's like that's where the stillness is. So I want to just say that, let me see. So Nori loved what you were saying, Suli. Yes, yes. And Betty's like, right, France. Yes, yes. So if somebody watching has always had the attitude like, I'm too busy to meditate, and you know, now their hairdressers closed, they can't go to the movies, they can't go shopping, whatever, now they have a few minutes, right? I think the message of today really is go within. So what's possible for them when they do tap into that inner wisdom, that inner knowledge, their inner truth? What is possible for their outer reality, right? Let's talk about that, because I used to live in a dark world because I thought everything was negative, right? When I was really, really negative, it's a reflection, right? What we feel inside is a reflection of what we see around us. So I'm not sure where we're going with this, but I would just ask that you listen to your own guidance as you're talking, but to really, I want to help people that might not be awake or aware, that might not have ever meditated. So what would you say to them? What's something powerful that they can do for themselves during this time so that they will be stronger and life will be better as a result? What would you say to them, Melody?
For me, I started with meditation as well, and I would do 5 minutes, and I couldn't sit still for 5 minutes. It seemed like a year, and then I just continued with that cycle. I continued and I continued until I could do 10 and 15 minutes. And sometimes I'll do it and sometimes I wouldn't. And then I just said, I want to see what will happen if I do it daily. And I started doing meditation every day. And then I started doing it twice a day, morning and evening. And the joy that came into my heart, the healing that came into me, that I can talk about my husband now. I could write a book and talk about my story and not, feel my heart breaking again. And I tried to write a book before, and every time I started remembering things. I would break down and I would stop writing. And so what's possible is that capacity to hear yourself think, to hear yourself at a higher level. Like, and also the opportunities that come into your life. Me being here on this live with you is not, to me, is not an accident. It's because of all the work that I've done. Writing a book as well was something that I had planned to do, but when I finally got down to sit down and write my book, I had so much help. I finished my book within 6 months, and yeah, and all those opportunities just started coming and coming into my life, and now I see them for what they are. I used to think, sure, the accidents, but now I know exactly what it is. Every time I am centered and I know who I am and I appreciate who I am, things happen to me way easier. I'm kind of a control freak, so sometimes I still try to get hold of the reins. And when I do that, things get tougher for me. And then I just say, okay, I know what to do. I let go. And the moment I let go, things fall into place again. And that's a gift.
Because sometimes God, source, universe is trying to give you something amazing, but we're so headstrong and we're so determined to do it our way that they can't come in and help us, right? So I love that you said that. And I just want to point out, like, who we are in the physical, who we are when you see in the mirror, this is the human expression of your larger self, right? So when it's like your truth is that you are spirit, you are of the one, you are whole, perfect, and complete, right? And you chose to express in human form. So when you don't allow yourself to connect to your own truth, that's when chaos and craziness happens. It's in that connection to your own truth that the calmness and the way is shown, right? So I want to fast forward because this is looking beyond the pandemic and we kind of just been in the swirl of it all, right? What would you like to see happen as a whole, right? So all of us, every single person, all of humanity, all around the world, our global brothers and sisters, we're all in this together. What evidence do you see of positive things happening in the future? And what would you like to see more of when we do get back to our new normal? Who would like to take that? Yeah, my questions aren't easy, people. Right? We're talking deep stuff.
The new normal is going to be still an evolving process. And as we're shedding some of the pieces that no longer serve us, this is what we're trying to do collectively as well as individually. And so it's the ripple effect where if what every single person does, it goes off and it touches other people, and then they have maybe the courage to also work at it. And just, it's a matter of, in the future, if all of us choose to, before we act, to tune in and say, is this the right thing for me? Is this in alignment with who I am? That would be a massive improvement. If every single person is acting that way, of first tuning in, checking, yep, this is good, and you do it, And then if you make a mistake, you're redirected, first of all. You know, I call it, we have a DGS, Divine Guidance System, and compared to a GPS where you type in where you want to go, you have a destination, you're only given one step at a time, and that's all you need. We need to plant the seed of what it is that we want, each individually. What is our goal? What is our dream? And we set that as, you know, what we want to have happen. Once we've done the planting, the rest of it, how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen, that's up to divine God. That's not our job. Our job is the planting of the seed and then nurturing it by just trusting that we'll get to where we want to go and asking on a daily basis, what would you have me do today? What's my next best step? And we do that step by step. So how is that going to be for every single person? It will be different. And that's how it should be. There are no two people who are exactly alike. And so if we all begin to work with that premise of, you know, tuning in, and because our divine guidance is always specifically for us. What's best for me is going to be told me. What's best for Melody will be, you know, and so if each one of us does that, and then others say, oh, well, that seems to work for her, so why don't I start doing that? And then more and more people, all of a sudden things clear up and get better. So what it's going to look like and when, that's not my job. That's how I figure. I plant the seed.
I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you for prediction. I asked you to.
Well, no, you said, what does it look? What will it look like?
What do
when
you
we're
want?
done?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you want to see happen?
Oh, specifically, what is my desire? What is my goal?
Yeah,
Is that what-
like things that you're seeing now, right? So for example, for me, it's like I see our leadership really having to, for the very first time, to truly care about their people in their state, right? And they truly have to help us navigate these waters. For the very first time, our leadership really has to care about us, like truly care and show us the way and truly lead in a way that helps everyone. So I personally would love to see that continue, where, you know, instead of politics as usual, like there's a real connection between those that we ask to lead us and to us, right? To them, to really know what's going on with us and to really care about who we are as a people and to lead from that perspective and make decisions from that perspective for the highest good of all of the people, right? So I see all of the leaders right now, well, not all, but most of the leaders right now really stepping up in a big way to help their states, their people get through this time, right? And so I'd love to see that continue. And by doing that, perhaps these divisions, these, you know, divided lines, Republican, Democrat, etc., will diminish. And then the true essence of who we are as a people, we are in it together, right? But how can we ever come together when our system is set up to be divided, right? So I would love for that to the will of the people to be really heard, I guess. Yeah.
I one of the most beautiful things I saw, I live in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Was that we had elections in February. And then before the government was formed, this COVID thing started. So we still don't have a formal government at the moment.
Wow.
We are, yeah. But having said that, there was a consensus and an agreement that the person who was prime minister before the COVID should continue to run the government because that was the most logical thing to do. But every party came together. They were all working together as one. And I truly believe, and I've said this to a lot of my friends, that I don't understand why in this day and age, we still have governments with parties that think and believe they are on opposite side of the divide, when we really all want the same thing. Why is it that we should have different views? Because it's important and it's logical, but still work together to bring out this thing. Because anyone who comes to you with a different view gives you pause for thought, because you have to think about them. It's like having 5 children, which I don't, but I grew up in a family with 5 kids, and we were all not the same. We all thought differently, but we still managed to get close, to understand, to listen to each and every one of us, and took care of each other. We are still really close now. We're all adults, but we are still really close because of that heritage of listening and caring enough to say everyone deserves to be heard, everyone deserves to be looked after. Once we have that, all these other things that are going on will become useless and we'll let them go. I want to see more kindness. I've seen a lot of kindness. People have been donating food, donating time, helping those who are in need. I want to see more of that, because I think that's what's going to make us, make it as people, not just surviving as we have been doing, but really thriving, really knowing that there is no one who goes around feeling lonely. There is no one who goes around feeling disconnected, because an opportunity connect will come and they will take it and they will use it productively. That's what I want to see.
I love that. And so if your parties, if this didn't happen, right, and the parties would have stayed divided. And so for this to take as long as it's going to take, it might be enough time to shift from what was to something new and something better, right? So that's why I think it's important. It's like my governor, right? My governor of my state, I live in the smallest state in the United States, but she's serving the homeless. She's talking about the homeless, and she's talking about those that are wealthy, and she's talking about the moms and the nurses, and so she's not forgetting anyone. So all people for the very first time are being considered, right? She is like, okay, how can we take care of the homeless, and how can we take care of the nurses, and how can we take care of the grocery store workers, and how can we take care of, you know what I mean? So for the very first time, it's like all people are being considered, which means all people in this moment in time have a voice for the very first time. And so the longer this shutdown happens, the longer that this pause takes place, I feel like that's going to serve us in the long run, right? Because we're in an election year too, and normally right now, the political, those that want to rise to the presidency are beating each other up and discrediting each other and name calling and being horrible to each other, right? But we are now, that cannot take place right now. There's no room for that to take place right now. And that is the beautiful thing, right?
Yes, it is. Definitely.
Yeah. So that's
It's all by divine plan.
It is by divine plan. Absolutely.
And so gratitude, like you said earlier, Melody, it's so important that, how do you try to bring more, get yourself up and out, start your day with gratitude every single day, just name gratitudes. There's so much we can be grateful for. Instead of focusing on the lack, focus on what there is that's, to be grateful for, and more will be shown to you, because that works.
So if you could create the world the way that you would like to see the world, right? Because let's just pretend that you have the power, right? Let's pretend that all of us watching here has the power to just wave our wand, and then when all this is said and done, it's our perfect world. What does that look like for us, right? you know, so many people right now are working remotely. For the very first time, they can work from home. They can be with their children, right? What would you like? So if it was your world to create as you want, what would that look like? And I would love to hear from everybody watching, because even putting that intention out into the world, that's swirling with all that yummy goodness, right? So Melody, what would your world look like?
I love working from home. I also love connecting with people. I've been connecting with people like you know, France. I've met her twice now, and many other people. I've been on Zoom a lot, and but it's all good because I'm meeting people. I'm getting to know people. I'm getting to connect with people that add something to my life, and I want to see more of that. I think the more we get to spend time together, the more we get more connected, even in family, because that's why, you know, this whole you have to have dinner together started. At least you have time to really talk to each other and focus on each other and hear each other, because it's only when you see a person that you get to understand them. We have had so many times when, you know, soldiers go to war and they spend time in enemy territory and they become friends with them because they've spent enough time to value them and understand them. It's the same thing with us. The more time we spend with each other, the less we consider each other enemies or strangers or whatever the word we want to use that separates us. I want to see more, like, I come from a culture where we my grandmother was still living in villages. We were not colonized yet. And she was a person who never went out to work. She stayed in the village with her kids. And we never had stay at home moms in our culture. We had women who go to work with kids around their legs and they'll be sending them to go fetch this, to go fetch that. But their children were always around them. And as you get older, you are given more responsibility, but you're always around adults and you're always being looked after, but not, you know, being a burden the way it is here.
Yeah.
Part of coming to Ireland is really something that woke me up to the fact that we had a really great culture that I didn't really appreciate as much as I should have. Because women in my country work together. Like they really help each other. You would never have, you know, a problem whom to leave your kids with. If you have to go to the shops or something, somebody is always looking after you or out for you. And that's here you do everything on your own, like literally everything. And that's a lonely way to live.
It really is. And I think that this is the second time that you mentioned this. And it really is the fact that, you know, it's everybody fending for themselves, right? It's everybody trying to survive on their own. And I'm hoping that, you know, this will teach us to connect in a real way to each other and to really help each other and support each other. That would be such a beautiful thing. And, you know, there's many stay-at-home moms and dads right now that are frustrated that they have to do the remote learning with their kids, and their kids are struggling because it's just not a pleasurable experience for the family. But regardless of how small your children are, they are wise, and they, you know, perhaps practicing to allow them to express their voice and to share their voice. And when you really listen to them, you're going to be surprised at how gifted and amazing they truly are and how much they have to contribute, right? Like, really, I don't know why that came up, but it did. So I just trust that somebody needed to hear that. So your world is very beautiful. I like that. So I would love to hear from our audience, like, what kind of world would you love to see? And Betty's saying, I would love to see our separation churches into oneness church for all, right? And isn't that just the way? It's like all of us living separate lives and doing our own thing and fending for ourselves. So when we're under stress, we don't have anybody we can rely on. So I think really coming together as one nation under God or under Source or under Buddha, whoever you believe in, and really coming together like never before, right? Isn't that a beautiful thing for all people? And I love that all people in this moment are being seen, right? Because every single person deserves to be seen. Every single person deserves to have a voice. Every single person deserves to be respected and acknowledged, regardless of their economic background, regardless of whatever struggles they're going through. I would love for people to come together. Okay, so to wrap up, what does your world for everyone look like, Fran?
My world, my ideal world would be that there's healthy food for everybody without all the toxins that are everywhere. The air would be clean, the water would be good, and that family units would not have to have both parents working, because I think that's been a bad situation. It would be lovely, like Melody. What country were you from, Melody? Where your culture
Zimbabwe.
is Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
where people are all there. I don't know if you still have family units within the community, how that works, but that's what I would envision, is that within the community, the family units are set up that, you know, there is a way for everybody to be able to function with one income, because the craziness of having to have both parents struggling, and, you know, we need to have that time to be connected to our family members better, without the stress of bringing in what it currently costs for what we think we need. You know, we think we need 2 cars. We think we need to go on these beautiful vacations all the time. All these things that have become part of the norm, which that wasn't the way I was brought up. We never went on vacation. We were not rich at all, you know.
I don't think I still want to go on a nice vacation, you know,
Well,
but not thinking I need to have.
yeah. But the thing is, you know, if in order to have a vacation, if a family feels like, in order to keep up with the Joneses, because that's a lot of what happens, unfortunately, that you need to plan these hugely costly vacations to go with your family, and then that traps you financially, you know, where you can go to your beautiful, I assume you're in Rhode Island, because you said you're the smallest state.
Yeah.
Gorgeous places you can go on vacation right there.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's what, when my kids were little, we used to go to the beach, and we used to go to the parks, and we would have picnics, you know what I mean, and do those kind of things. And but to tell you the truth, it's like we were brought up so jaded, and so to not trust people, or to not open up to people, or not to bother people with our problems. So we created our own prisons. We created these prisons that we each live in, because it's like, you know, oh, I need a stick of butter, but I don't want to bother my neighbor. So you know what I mean? Like, I have neighbors, I don't talk to them, you know what I mean? And I'm just being honest. Like, I talk to people all around the world, but I haven't talked to my neighbor you know, in
Ditto, same here.
3
Here
months,
I
right?
go,
In 3
oh,
months.
live on the
So,
street.
so
So,
I would love to see us to just kind of put our guard down and just kind of take a bigger chance in getting to know other people and
Yeah.
respect the differences between us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is very isolating. It's very isolating. So I want to just read that. Nelta says, we all bring different gifts into the world and we can grow amazing communities just by starting to look out for each other and caring for each other. Yes, yes. I love these conversations. I put the guest sheet that gives you an opportunity to connect with these beautiful guests that I had today. So feel free to connect with them. Melody does have a book that she wrote. Melody, do you just want to because it's appropriate, your book is appropriate for the conversation. So do you just want to share a little bit about your book?
Yes, thank you. So my book is called Why Self-Love is the Key to True Love. It is a story about my life and the fact that after my husband passed away, I remembered that there was a time when I wanted to divorce him. And so I was looking back to see why I didn't divorce him and why we were so close by the time he passed away. And I saw the journey of me not knowing what I was doing as a new bride and just, wanting to be super independent and doing my own thing and disregarding everything my husband was doing, to waking up to it wasn't giving me joy. It wasn't, I was overwhelmed, but I was definitely unhappy. And so was he. And realizing that the way he saw the world was important. The way he behaved as a man was his way of being in the world. I woke up to loving that, to accepting that, but especially to loving myself and accepting myself. And when I started loving myself, really loving myself and knowing who I am and what I want and my values, I also automatically started loving and honoring my husband because, it's automatic that way. And so I learned a lot about a lot of things to do with relationships that I started applying to my marriage that transformed my marriage from just being here to wow.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so
And
beautiful. Will you put the link to them to get your book in the comments?
sure,
In the
I'll
group?
do that.
That would be wonderful. And it is true. Once you accept and love yourself, really, truly, then you just grace other people with their own path, and you no longer hold strong judgment toward them for how they are. You just love and accept them for exactly who they are as well. So I love that. So thank you everyone for joining the conversation. If you have questions for any of my guests, feel free to write a post in the Facebook group. They'll be checking in with you and answering any questions you may have. And if you are a coach and you would like to be a guest speaker on these live panel conversations, you can connect with me. My information is on the guest sheet that's in this Facebook group. And if you're watching from somewhere else other than our main Facebook group where the Facebook live streams are happening and you want to be part of the conversation, join Awakening to a New World Facebook group. And I would love to have you join the conversation. And for now, we will see you next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much. And just really remember to connect with your truth, because that's where your power lies. And much, much love to all. Mwah.
Mwah.
Thank you.
so
Goodbye,
much.
everybody.
Thank
Be
you.
joyful, be
Bye.
well.
Okay, let me stop the live stream. Hold on.